Jamal Carter lay sprawled on the tarmac, blood trickling from his lip, as Captain Victor Hensley towered over him, barking into his radio for police to haul away this trespassing punk. The 16-year-old's dream of flying shattered in an instant. Hours earlier, he'd been invited to shadow a pilot, a golden ticket earned through grit. Now accused of breaking into a restricted hangar, his future hung by a thread. Little did Hensley know, the boy's father wasn't just anyone, and this moment would spark a firestorm that had burned for years. What happens when justice fights back? Hey folks, where are you watching from today? If you stand for fairness and exposing prejudice, smash that like button, subscribe, and join us for more raw stories like this one. Jamal Carter woke up that morning with a grin he couldn't wipe off, his lanky frame practically vibrating as he sat at the kitchen table in their modest Dallas home, clutching a crisp white envelope like it was made of gold. The letter inside was from Lone Star Airlines Youth Aviation Program, and it wasn't just any letter. It was his golden ticket, a confirmation that he'd won a day shadowing a real pilot at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. He'd earned it the hard way, pouring his soul into an essay about aerodynamics, scribbling equations late into the night while his friends were out playing ball, all because he could name every plane in the sky by the hum of its engines. His mom, Lena, stood behind him, her fingers weaving his tight curls into fresh braids, her voice warm but teasing as she said, "You're gonna be late if you keep staring at that paper, flyboy." Jamal just chuckled, his eyes flicking to the letter, again savoring the words. "Congratulations, Jamal Carter. Your passion for aviation has earned you this opportunity." Across the room, his dad, Marcus, leaned against the counter, sipping coffee, his phone buzzing nonstop with work calls, but he paused long enough to catch Jamal's eye and give a slow, proud nod, the kind that said more than words ever could. Marcus was a big man, broad-shouldered and quiet, always dressed sharp even on weekends, and Jamal idolized him, though he never quite knew the full scope of what his dad did beyond something important with planes. The clock hit 7, and Jamal bolted out the door, his backpack slung over one shoulder, the letter tucked safely inside next to his sketchbook full of cockpit drawings. The drive to Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport felt like it took forever, even though it was just 30 miles. The Texas sun already baking the asphalt as he fidgeted in the passenger seat of his mom's old sedan. Lena dropped him off at the main entrance, squeezing his hand before he hopped out, her voice soft but firm. "Make us proud, baby." Jamal nodded, adjusted his backpack, and stepped into the sprawling chaos of the airport. A maze of glass and steel buzzing with travelers, dragging suitcases and pilots striding past in crisp uniforms. He felt small, but electric, like he'd finally stepped into the world he'd dreamed of since he was 6, watching jets streak across the sky from his bedroom window. At the security gate, he flashed his official badge, a sleek plastic card, with his name and photo, the Lone Star Airlines logo gleaming in the corner, and the guard waved him through with a bored grunt. Inside, a staffer named Ms. Torres met him, a short woman with a clipboard and a no-nonsense smile, her dark hair pulled back tight. She shook his hand, her grip firm, and said, "Welcome, Jamal. You're in for a treat today. Let's get you to the hangar." Her voice had a spark that made him feel like he belonged, and he followed her through a labyrinth of corridors, past ticket counters and coffee stands, until they reached a heavy steel door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." Ms. Torres swiped her keycard, and the door swung open to reveal Hangar B, a cavernous space that smelled of jet fuel and metal, where a gleaming Boeing 737 sat like a sleeping giant. Jamal's breath caught in his throat, his eyes tracing the sleek curves of the fuselage, the massive engines hanging low under the wings, every detail matching the diagrams he'd memorized. Ms. Torres led him inside, pointing out the tools, scattered across workbenches, and the technicians in orange vests swarming around the plane. She handed him a visitor's vest, bright yellow and too big, and said, "Your mentor's running late, but feel free to look around. I'll grab his schedule and be right back." Jamal nodded, barely hearing her as she hustled off, his attention locked on the cockpit visible through the plane's open door. He stepped closer, his sneakers squeaking on the polished floor, and peered inside, his fingers brushing the edge of a control panel, all those switches and dials he'd studied for years now real under his touch. He wasn't supposed to mess with anything, he knew that, But the temptation was too strong, and he leaned in, tracing the throttle with a reverent fingertip, imagining himself at the helm, soaring over the clouds. That's when the air shifted, a shadow falling across the cockpit entrance, and Jamal snapped upright, turning to see a hulking figure in a pilot's uniform filling the doorway. Captain Victor Hensley stood there, 6 feet of lean muscle and weathered skin, his graying hair buzzed short under his cap. 4 gold stripes glinting on his shoulders like a badge of war. His face was hard, etched with lines from 25 years in the sky, but his pale blue eyes burned with something sharper, something mean. He stared at Jamal, his jaw tightening, and took a step forward, his polished boots thudding against the floor. Jamal swallowed, his throat dry, and managed a shaky smile, stepping back as he said, "Hi, sir. I'm just waiting for my mentor. I'm with the program." But Hensley didn't smile back, didn't even blink, just kept staring, his gaze raking over Jamal like he was sizing up a stray dog that had wandered into his yard. "Who let this kid in here?" Hensley muttered, his voice a low growl that sent a chill down Jamal's spine. Not loud, but heavy, like it carried a threat in every syllable. He didn't wait for an answer, didn't ask for one, just strode forward, each step deliberate, closing the gap between them until he was close enough for Jamal to smell the coffee on his breath. Jamal opened his mouth to explain again, his heart thudding against his ribs, but before he could get the words out, Hensley's hand shot forward, slamming into Jamal's chest and shoving him hard against the hangar wall. The impact knocked the wind out of him, his backpack thudding to the ground, and he gasped, his hands flying up instinctively to shield himself. Hensley loomed over him, his face inches away, and snarled, "What the hell are you doing in my hangar, boy?" Jamal's mind raced, panic clawing at his chest, but he tried to stay calm, his voice trembling as he stammered, "I'm supposed to be here, sir. I've got permission. I'm shadowing a pilot today." Hensley's lip curled, a sneer twisting his features, and he barked, "Permission? You think I'm stupid?" His hand tightened on Jamal's vest, pinning him in place, and Jamal felt the cold metal of the wall digging into his back, his dream day spiraling into something dark and ugly. Hensley's eyes flicked over him again, lingering on his skin, his braids, and he muttered, not loud but clear enough, "Your kind doesn't belong anywhere near my planes." The words hit Jamal like a slap, sharp and stinging, and he froze, his breath catching as the weight of them sank in. He'd heard whispers like that before, at school, on the bus, but never this close, never this raw, and not on a day that was supposed to be his shot at the sky. Hensley didn't let up, his grip iron tight, and he leaned closer, his voice dropping to a venomous hiss. "I don't know how you snuck in here, but you're done, kid." Jamal's hands shook, his mind screaming at him to fight back, to explain, but all he could do was stand there, pinned and helpless, as Hensley straightened up and reached for the radio clip to his belt. He clicked it on, his eyes never leaving Jamal's, and spoke into it, his tone clipped and cold. "Security. Get to Hangar B now. We've got an unauthorized trespasser messing with restricted equipment, possible sabotage." Jamal's stomach dropped, his legs going weak, and he croaked out, "No sir, please, I'm not." But Hensley cut him off with a glare that could have stopped a jet mid-takeoff, his finger jabbing the air as he snapped, "Shut it. You're not talking your way out of this." Jamal's world tilted, the hangar spinning around him as the reality crashed down. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was something worse, something fueled by the way Hensley looked at him, like he was less than nothing. The radio crackled, "With a response on our way, Captain," and Hensley smirked, a thin, cruel twist of his lips, like he'd just won a game Jamal didn't even know they were playing. Jamal's chest heaved, his breath coming in short, ragged bursts, and he thought of his mom's smile, his dad's nod, the letter that had promised him the world, all of it slipping away because of this man who didn't even know his name. He'd come here to chase his dream, to touch the sky, and now he was trapped, accused and alone, with no idea how deep this hole was about to get. Jamal Carter stood pinned against the hangar wall, his chest heaving as Captain Victor Hensley's meaty hand clutched his vest, the pilot's radio still crackling with the promise of security on the way. Jamal's voice shook, barely above, a whisper as he tried to claw his way out of this nightmare. "I'm here with the program, sir. Please look at my badge." He fumbled with his free hand, tugging the plastic card from his pocket, holding it up like a shield, his name and photo, staring back under the Lone Star Airlines logo. Hensley's eyes flicked to it, but instead of softening, his face twisted into a scowl, and he snatched it from Jamal's grasp with a jerk that snapped the lanyard clean in two. He held it up, squinting at it under the hangar's harsh lights, then let out a harsh barking laugh that echoed off the metal walls. "This looks like a damn forgery, kid," he spat, tossing it to the ground like it was trash. "You think you can fool me with some cheap knockoff?" Jamal's heart sank, his mouth dry as he stammered, "No, it's real. Ms. Torres gave it to me, I swear." But Hensley wasn't listening, his pale blue eyes glinting with something dark, something that made Jamal's skin crawl. Hensley stepped back, just enough to give Jamal a sliver of hope. But then he spun on his heel and clicked his radio again, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. "Security. Make it quick. We've got an unauthorized black kid snooping in Hangar B, probably. Up to sabotage, get him out of here." The words hit Jamal like a punch to the gut. Unauthorized black sabotage, each one twisting the knife deeper, turning his dream day into a racist nightmare. He opened his mouth to protest. "Ms. Torres can tell you she brought me here," but Hensley wheeled around, his finger jabbing an inch from Jamal's face as he snarled, "I don't care who you say brought you. Your kind doesn't belong here. End of story." The venom in his tone was unmistakable, dripping with prejudice that Jamal had felt before, but never this raw, never this close, and it locked his legs in place, his mind racing for a way out. What was Hensley seeing when he looked at him? A threat? A thief? Or just a kid who didn't fit his picture of who got to touch planes? The hangar's heavy silence shattered as two security guards burst through the side door, their boots pounding the concrete, both of them big, burly guys, with buzzed hair and stern faces, their gray uniforms stretched tight over broad chests. The taller one, a guy with a scar slicing through his eyebrow, locked eyes with Hensley and nodded. "Captain's call. We've got it from here." The other guard, shorter but thicker, zeroed in on Jamal, his gaze raking over him like he was already guilty, and without a word he grabbed Jamal's arm, yanking him away from the wall with a grip that made his bones ache. Jamal stumbled, his sneakers skidding, and croaked, "Wait, I'm not trespassing, I've got a badge." But the taller guard cut him off, snatching his wrists and twisting them behind his back with a practiced move. Cold metal bit into his skin. As handcuffs clicked shut, the sound sharp and final, and Jamal's breath hitched, his pulse hammering in his ears. What was happening? How could a badge with his name on it turn into this? The shorter guard scooped up the discarded badge from the floor, glancing at it for half a second before tossing it to his partner, who barely looked before shoving it into his pocket. Hensley crossed his arms, his smirk widening as he watched, and said, "Told you it's fake. Probably printed it off some website. These kids think they can waltz in anywhere." Jamal shook his head, desperation clawing at his throat. "No, it's not fake. Call Ms. Torres, she'll tell you." But the taller guard tightened the cuffs, making Jamal wince, and growled, "Save it, kid, you're coming with us." They hauled him toward the door, his arms pinned, his legs dragging as he tried to keep up, every step pulling him further from the plane he'd been so close to flying. He twisted his head back, pleading, "Please, just check with HR, I'm supposed to be here." But Hensley barked over him, "Get him out of my sight. I've got a flight to prep," and the guards obeyed, shoving Jamal through the doorway into a dim, narrow hall. The corridorxy. The hall stretched long and gray, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, casting stark shadows that danced across the concrete walls as the guards marched him forward, their grips unrelenting. Jamal's mind spun, his wrists burning where the cuffs dug in, each jolt sending a spike of pain up his arms. How could this be real? Wasn't anyone going to stop this? He'd spent years dreaming of this moment, shadowing a pilot, touching the controls he'd sketched 100 times, and now he was a prisoner in the place he'd longed to belong. The taller guard muttered to his partner, "Captain's got a nose for trouble. This one's trouble all right." And the shorter one grunted, "Yeah, sneaking into a hangar? Ballsy move for a punk like him." Jamal's stomach churned, their words sinking in. They weren't even questioning it. They'd swallowed Hensley's lie whole, hook, line, and sinker. They shoved him into a small holding room at the hall's end, a box of a space with a metal bench bolted to the floor and a single flickering bulb overhead. The taller guard uncuffed one wrist just long enough to loop the chain through the bench, then snapped it back on, locking him in place. Jamal slumped against the cold steel, his breath ragged, his lip stinging where he'd bitten it in the struggle. The shorter guard loomed over him, hands on his hips, and said, "Sit tight, kid, we're sorting this out, but you're not going anywhere till we do." Jamal looked up, his voice hoarse. "Please, just call Ms. Torres. She's with HR, she'll clear this up." But the guard rolled his eyes, crossing his arms as he leaned against the wall. "We'll see about that. You just keep quiet." The taller guard stepped out, radio crackling as he spoke into it, requesting a check on Jamal Carter, 16, possible intruder. But Jamal could tell from his tone he'd already made up his mind. The room closed in, the air thick and stale, every second stretching into eternity as he sat there, chained, helpless. His vest hung crooked, the bright yellow fabric smudged with grime from the hangar floor, a mocking reminder of how fast his day had flipped. What would his mom say when she found out? Would she cry? Yell? And his dad, Marcus, always so calm, so steady. What would he do when he heard his son was locked up like some criminal? Hensley's voice echoed in his head. "Your kind doesn't belong here." And Jamal clenched his fists, the cuffs biting deeper, anger bubbling under the fear. He wasn't a trespasser. He wasn't a saboteur. He was a kid with a dream, a kid who'd earned his spot. And this man, this captain, had torn it all down in minutes. Why? Because of how he looked? Because he didn't fit Hensley's world? The injustice burned, hot and sharp, and he stared at the floor, his braids falling into his face, hiding the tears he refused to let fall. The door creaked as the taller guard returned, his face blank, and said, "HR's tied up. We'll deal with this ourselves for now. Captain's orders." Jamal's hope flickered. Ms. Torres was his lifeline, and they weren't even trying. The shorter guard smirked, leaning closer. "Better hope your story checks out, kid, or you're in deeper than you think." They stepped back, leaving him alone, the door slamming shut with a clang that rattled his bones. He sat there, the bulbs hummed the only sound, his dream dangling by a thread, and all he could do was wait, pray, and fight the dread creeping up his spine. Hey viewers, what do you think? Comment number 1 if you've ever been judged unfairly like Jamal. Number 2 if you think Hensley's already gone too far. Drop a like if you're rooting for Jamal to fight back, and subscribe to see how this unfolds. Because trust me, it's about to get wild. Has prejudice ever hit you out of nowhere? Share below, let's talk it out. Now, what's Hensley got up his sleeve next, and can Jamal survive it? Jamal Carter sat shackled to the metal bench in the cramped holding room, his wrists throbbing where the cuffs bit into his skin, the flickering bulb overhead casting jagged shadows across the concrete floor. The air was thick, heavy with the stench of sweat and disinfectant, and every creak of the building made his heart jump, expecting rescue or ruin. He'd lost track of time, minutes bleeding into what felt like hours, his mind replaying Hensley's sneer, the guard's rough hands, the way his badge, his proof, had been tossed aside like garbage. The door hinges groaned, and Jamal snapped his head up, hope flaring for a split second. Maybe Ms. Torres had come. Maybe this was over. But the figure stepping through wasn't her. It was Captain Victor Hensley, his broad frame filling the doorway, his pilot's cap tilted just enough to shadow his icy eyes. Behind him trailed a crowd, pilots in pressed uniforms, staff in polo shirts, a dozen sets of curious stares boring into Jamal like needles. Hensley strode in, his boots clicking, with purpose, and stopped a foot from Jamal, close enough for the boy to catch the faint whiff of tobacco clinging to his jacket. He reached into his pocket, pulling out Jamal's badge, the one he'd called fake, and held it high, dangling it between two fingers like a hunter showing off a kill. His voice boomed, filling the tiny room. "Listen up, folks. This is what we're dealing with, a kid with a forged past trying to sneak into restricted zones." The crowd shifted, murmurs rippling through them, some nodding like they'd expected this all along, others pulling out phones, screens glowing as they started recording. Jamal's stomach twisted, his voice cracking as he tried to cut through. "That's not true. I'm with the program. Ms. Torres can prove it." But Hensley spun toward him, his face a mask of contempt, and snapped, "No excuses, boy. "You've been caught red-handed." The words landed hard, silencing Jamal's protest, his throat tightening as he realized no one was listening. Not really. Hensley turned back to the crowd, his tone shifting to a preacher's cadence, gripping their attention. "I found him poking around a 737's cockpit, probably looking to steal flight data or worse. This is why we can't let our guard down." The murmurs grew louder, a pilot in the back muttering, "Unbelievable," while a staffer with a clipboard shook her head, her lips pursed tight. Jamal's face burned, shame and anger warring inside him, and he yanked against the cuffs, the chain rattling as he shouted, "I wasn't stealing anything, I was invited, call HR, please." Hensley didn't even glance at him, just kept going, his voice rising. "I've seen it before, kids like him thinking they can bluff their way in. But not on my watch." He tossed the badge onto the bench beside Jamal, letting it clatter, a cheap prop in his one-man show, and the crowd ate it up, their phones tilting for better angles, capturing every second of Jamal's downfall. The taller guard from earlier stepped forward, his scarred eyebrow twitching as he nodded to Hensley. "We've got this, Captain," and reached for his radio, lifting it to his mouth. Jamal seized the chance, his voice desperate. "Call Ms. Torres, she's with HR, she'll tell you I'm legit." But Hensley waved a hand, cutting the guard off mid-motion, and said, "No need, I've handled it. This kid's story's full of holes." The guard hesitated, his thumb hovering over the button, but Hensley's glare made him lower the radio, his jaw tightening as he stepped back. Jamal's chest heaved, his hopes slipping through his fingers like sand. They weren't even going to check. They were just going to believe this man because he had stripes on his shoulders and a loud voice. How could power twist the truth this fast? How could his dream turn into a public execution? Hensley gestured to the guards, his tone clipped. "Get him outside. Let's show everyone what happens when you let riffraff in." And the shorter guard grabbed Jamal's arm, yanking him up, so fast his knees buckled. The taller one unlocked the cuffs from the bench, only to snap them tighter around Jamal's wrists, the metal digging deeper, bruising now, and they hauled him toward the door. The crowd parted, a sea of faces blurring past, some smirking, some frowning, all of them judging. And Jamal stumbled between the guards, his sneakers scraping the floor, his vest hanging crooked and filthy. They burst out of the holding room into the main terminal, a sprawling space of glass and tile packed with travelers, and the guards didn't slow, dragging him toward the open plaza near the gates where people milled with luggage and coffee cups. Hensley followed, his voice carrying over the airport din, loud enough to turn heads. "This is what happens when we let trespassers think they can roam free, folks. Take a good look." Travelers stopped, staring, kids pointing, a woman clutching, her purse tighter as if Jamal might lunge at her. Phones came out again, more cameras, more flashes, and Jamal felt every lens like a spotlight burning into his skin. His braid swung into his face, hiding his eyes, but he couldn't hide the tremble in his legs, the way his breath hitched as the humiliation sank in. He'd walked in here proud, a kid with a badge and a future, and now he was a sideshow, a warning, a nobody in cuffs. The shorter guard shoved him forward, forcing him to stand in the center of the plaza, and Hensley circled him, arms crossed, his smirk a blade twisting deeper. "See this, people? This is why we lock down our hangars." Jamal's voice broke through, ragged and raw. "I'm not a trespasser. I earned this. Check my badge." But the crowd's chatter drowned him out, a wall of noise he couldn't breach. A pilot in the throng, a wiry guy with a gray mustache, nodded at Hensley. "Good catch, Captain. Can't be too careful." And a staffer nearby muttered, "Should have known better than to try that here." Jamal's knees shook, his hands clenching behind his back, the cuffs rattling with every move, and he scanned the faces, searching for someone, anyone, who'd see past Hensley's lies. But all he saw was suspicion, disgust, a few pitying glances. That stung worse than the hate. Where was Ms. Torres? Why wasn't she here to stop this? Hensley stepped closer, lowering his voice so only Jamal could hear, his breath hot against the boy's ear. "You're done, kid. No one's buying your sob story." And Jamal flinched, the words cutting deeper than the cuffs. The taller guard grabbed his shoulder, spinning him toward a side exit, and said, "Let's move. Captain wants you gone." And they shoved him through the crowd, people stepping back like he was contagious. The terminal blurred, A kaleidoscope of faces and lights, and Jamal's mind screamed, "This can't be it. Someone's got to know the truth." But the guards kept pushing, their grips bruising, and Hensley's voice rang out one last time, echoing off the glass. "Keep your eyes open. Folks, trouble comes in all shapes and sizes." They dragged Jamal outside, the Texas heat slamming into him as they crossed the threshold, the terminal doors sliding shut behind them with a hiss. He stumbled onto the pavement, the sun glaring down, baking the sweat into his skin, and the guard stopped, planting him there like a scarecrow for anyone passing by to gawk at. His vest flapped in the breeze, torn now, his badge lost somewhere in Hensley's game, and he stood there, exposed, the weight of 100 eyes pressing down. His dream, his shot at the sky, it was slipping away, shredded in front of strangers, who'd never know his name, only the lie Hensley had painted. His chest tightened, anger boiling under the shame, and he thought of his mom's smile, his dad's nod, how they'd look at him now, how this moment might follow him forever, a scar he couldn't outrun. Jamal Carter stood trembling on the scorching pavement outside Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, the sun hammering down on his bruised wrists, the cuffs still biting into his skin as the crowd stares lingered like a swarm of wasps. The guards loomed beside him, their shadows stretching long across the concrete, their hands resting on their belts as if he might bolt any second. His torn yellow vest flapped in the hot breeze, a tattered flag of his ruined day, and his chest ached with every shallow breath, the weight of Hensley's public shaming pressing harder than the heat. The terminal doors slid open again, spilling out a new sound, the sharp crackle of police radios, and Jamal's head jerked up, his pulse spiking as two officers strode toward him, their navy uniforms crisp, their faces hard under mirrored sunglasses. They were white, both of them, with buzzed hair and jaws, set like they'd already judged him guilty, and Jamal's stomach knotted tighter, a flicker of dread chasing away the faint hope he'd clung to. Captain Victor Hensley emerged behind them, his pilot's cap pulled low, his smirk sharper than ever as he clapped the taller cop on the shoulder, a familiarity that made Jamal's blood run cold. "Hey Mike, good to see you," Hensley said, his voice smooth now like he was greeting an old buddy at a bar. The officer, Mike, nodded back, his sunglasses glinting as he sized Jamal up. "What's the story, Vic?" Hensley stepped forward, planting himself between Jamal and the cops, and launched into a tale that twisted reality into something unrecognizable. This kid's a gang member. Caught him scoping out Hangar B, probably planning a heist or worse. I've seen his type before. Jamal's jaw dropped, his voice bursting out before he could stop it. "That's a lie. I'm not in a gang. I'm with the aviation program." But Hensley didn't flinch, just raised a hand to silence him, his eyes flicking to the cops with a look that said, "See what I mean?" The shorter cop, a stocky guy with a faint scar on his chin, cracked his knuckles and stepped closer, his shadow swallowing Jamal's, while Mike circled behind, cutting off any chance of retreat. Hensley kept going, his words piling up like bricks around Jamal. "He had a fake badge, tried to play it off, but I caught him red-handed near the cockpit. Could have been tampering with the plane." Jamal shook his head, desperation clawing at his throat. "No, I didn't touch anything. Ms. Torres gave me that badge. It's real." But the cops didn't even glance at him, their focus locked on Hensley like he was handing them gospel. Mike pulled out a notepad, scribbling something quick, then muttered, "Gang activity, huh? That's a new one for the airport." Hensley nodded, his tone grave. "Exactly. Can't take chances with flight security. You know how it is." Before Jamal could blink, Mike grabbed his arm, spinning him around and slamming him chest first onto a nearby metal table, the edge digging into his ribs, knocking the air from his lungs. Pain shot through him, a white-hot jolt, and he gasped, "Please, check the badge. I'm not a criminal." The shorter cop, scar-chin, pinned his shoulders down, his meaty hands pressing hard, while Mike started patting him down, rough and fast, his fingers digging into Jamal's pockets, ripping at his jeans. Hensley leaned in, his voice a taunting, "His check his pockets, Mike. Bet you'll find drugs or a knife. These kids always carry something." Jamal squirmed, his cheek grinding against the table's gritty surface. "I don't have anything, I swear." But Mike kept going, pulling out Jamal's empty wallet, a gum wrapper, nothing else, and tossing them aside with a grunt of frustration. Scar-chin tightened his grip, his breath hot on Jamal's neck. "Quit moving, kid. You're making this worse." And Jamal froze, his body screaming but his mind racing. They had to see he was clean. They had to stop. Mike stepped back, hands empty, and muttered, "Nothing on him, Vic," but Hensley didn't miss a beat, smirking as he said, "Doesn't mean he's innocent. Probably stashed it already, cunning little punk." The cops exchanged a look, a silent agreement passing between them, and Mike grabbed the cuffs from the taller guard, yanking Jamal's arms back tighter, the metal grinding against his already raw wrists. Jamal winced, a sharp yelp escaping, and Mike snapped, "Shut it. You're lucky we don't haul you straight to lockup." Jamal's legs shook, barely holding him up as they dragged him off the table, his ribs throbbing, his pride shredded, and he croaked out, "Please, let me call my dad. He'll explain everything." Hensley laughed, a short, bitter sound that cut through the air. "Your dad? Probably a nobody who can't keep you in line. Go ahead. Call him. Won't change a thing." The shorter guard, still hovering nearby, smirked and handed Jamal his phone from the pile of his stuff. But as Jamal reached for it, trembling fingers brushing the cracked screen, Mike tripped, his boot catching the edge, sending the phone skittering across the pavement. It hit the ground with a sickening crunch, the screen spiderwebbing, and Mike shrugged. "Oops, clumsy me. Guess you're out of luck, kid." Jamal stared at the wreckage of his phone, his lifeline to Marcus, his dad, the one person who could pull him out of this abyss, now just a pile of glass and plastic. His throat closed up, tears prickling his eyes, but he blinked them back, refusing to give Hensley the satisfaction. The captain clapped Mike on the back again. "Good work, boys. Keep him here till we figure out the next step," and turned to the growing knot of onlookers, his voice rising. "See this, folks. This is what we're up against. Can't let these types run loose." The crowd murmured, some nodding, others snapping photos, their faces a mix of fear and disdain. And Jamal stood there, cuffed and helpless, the Texas sun baking his shame into his skin. Mike leaned against the table, his sunglasses hiding his eyes as he muttered to Scarchin, "Think Vic's onto something. Kid's got that look, you know." Scarchin nodded, cracking his knuckles again. "Yeah, gang vibe for sure. Better safe than sorry." Jamal's head spun, their words blurring into a wall of noise. Gang member, heist, sabotage. None of it true, none of it him. But they didn't care. They saw what Hensley told them to see. His knees buckled, but the cuffs held him upright, a prisoner in plain sight, and he thought of Marcus, his dad's steady voice, his promise to always have his back. If he could just hear that voice now, it'd fix this, it had to. But the phone was gone, and with it, his last thread of hope. Hensley circled back, his shadow falling over Jamal again, and he crouched low, his face inches away. "You thought you could play me, huh? Big mistake, kid. I run this place, not you." Jamal met his gaze, his own eyes burning with a mix of fear and fury. "I'm not playing. I belong here. You'll see." Hensley straightened, his smirk fading for a split second, replaced by something colder. Then he turned to the cops. "Keep him locked down. I'll be back after my pre-flight. Don't let him squirm out of this." He strode off, his boots echoing, leaving Jamal with the officers, their hands hovering over their holsters, ready to pounce at the slightest move. The crowd thinned, but the stares didn't, travelers whispering as they passed, their words floating back. "Troublemaker, should have known. Typical." Jamal's chest tightened, his breath shallow, every bruise and scrape pulsing with the beat of his heart. He'd come here to soar, to shadow a pilot, to prove he could be one someday, and now he was a spectacle, a cautionary tale, all because Hensley couldn't stand the sight of him. His dad's face flashed in his mind, that proud nod from this morning, and he clung to it, the only thing keeping him from breaking. Marcus would come. He had to. But how long could Jamal hold on with the world closing in? Jamal Carter stood cuffed on the sun-baked pavement outside Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, his ribs aching from the police table slam, his wrists raw and bruised under the tight metal rings. The two cops, Mike and Scarchin, loomed over him, their mirrored sunglasses reflecting his hunched figure, while Captain Victor Hensley's parting words still rang in the air. "Keep him locked down." The crowd had thinned, but a few stragglers lingered, phones out, snapping shots of the black kid in cuffs like he was some roadside oddity. Jamal's cracked phone lay useless a few feet away, its shattered screen glinting in the Texas heat. His last hope of reaching Marcus snuffed out by Mike's accident. His legs trembled, barely holding him up, and his breath came in short, pained bursts, every inhale spiking the soreness in his chest. The cops muttered to each other, their voices low but sharp. Hensley's got a point. Kid's too slick, probably. Hiding something big. Jamal's head snapped up, his voice hoarse. I'm not hiding anything, I told you the truth. But they ignored him, their faces blank, like he was just noise. Mike stepped closer, his boots scuffing the concrete, and cracked. His neck a slow, deliberate pop that made Jamal flinch. He leaned in, his breath smelling of stale coffee, and said, "Here's the deal, kid. Captain Hensley wants you to confess, says you're a trespasser. Maybe worse. So let's make this easy." Jamal shook his head, his braids swinging. "No, I didn't. Trespass, I was invited. Check with Ms. Torres, but Scarchin cut him off, grabbing Jamal's arm and twisting it hard behind his back, the pain shooting up to his shoulder like a lightning bolt. Jamal gasped, his knees buckling, and Scarchin snarled, "Admit it, or we'll book you for resisting. You want that on your record?" The threat hung heavy, a hammer poised to drop, and Jamal's mind raced, his body screaming, his pride fraying. Under the pressure, confess to what? A lie? How could they twist his dream into this? Mike pulled out a small recorder from his pocket, clicking it on with a soft beep, the red light blinking like an eye watching Jamal's every move. He held it close, his voice calm but edged with menace. "Just say you snuck in. No badge, no permission, and we'll cut you loose with a warning, easy peasy." Jamal's eyes widened, his throat tight. "I can't say that. It's not true. I earned my spot here." But Scar Chin twisted harder, his grip a vice, and growled, "You're wasting our time. Kid, say it or we drag you downtown." The pain was blinding, a white-hot wave that blurred his vision, and Jamal's resolve cracked, his voice trembling as he mumbled, "I was just exploring, okay?" It wasn't a confession, not really, just a plea to make it stop. But Hensley, who'd slipped back unnoticed, pounced on it, stepping out from behind Mike with a grin that could cut glass. Hensley snatched the recorder, replaying the words, "I was just exploring, okay?" He held it up, triumphant, his voice booming. "See? He's guilty. Caught him lying from the start, sneaking around my hangar like a rat." Jamal's stomach dropped. His words twisted into a noose and he shouted, "No, that's not what I meant. I was invited." But Hensley waved him off, pocketing the recorder as he turned to the cops. "Told you he'd crack. Now let's make sure he never steps foot here again." Mike nodded, a faint smirk tugging at his lips, and Scarchin loosened his grip, just enough for Jamal to slump forward, his arm throbbing, his breath ragged. Hensley leaned in close, his tobacco scent choking the air. "You're banned, kid, permanently. I'll make sure every gate knows your face." Jamal's heart sank, his dream shredding before his eyes, but the cops uncuffed him, their movements rough but final, and Mike said, "You're free to go." Warning issued, "Don't come back." Jamal rubbed his wrists, the red welt stark against his skin, and stumbled back a step, the pavement searing through his sneakers. He thought it was over, the nightmare ending with a slap on the wrist, a chance to limp home and lick his wounds. But Hensley wasn't done. He pulled out his phone, his fingers flying across the screen, and within minutes, a news van screeched up to the curb, a reporter hopping out with a mic and a cameraman in tow. Hensley strode over, all charm now, and said, "Got a scoop for you. Caught this punk trespassing in Hangar B, confessed on tape, nearly compromised a flight." The reporter's eyes lit up and she turned to Jamal, shoving the mic in his face. "Care to comment, young man?" Jamal froze, his voice gone, his braids falling forward as the camera zoomed in, capturing his dazed, battered look for the world to see. The story hit like wildfire, Hensley handing over the doctored recording, the reporter spinning it into a headline, "Teen caught infiltrating airport hangar, confesses to trespass." Phones buzzed, screens glowed, and Jamal's face splashed. Across local news sites, his name plastered under grainy footage of him in cuffs. The words gang member and security threat flashing in bold. He staggered away from the van, the cops watching with folded arms, their job done, and Hensley barking at the reporter, "Make sure you get my name right, Captain Victor Hensley. keeping our skies safe. Jamal's legs carried him toward the parking lot, his body on autopilot, every step a fight against the tears burning his eyes. He'd dodged jail, sure, but this was worse. His name ruined, his dream tainted, all because he dared to reach for the sky. He found a bench near the lot, collapsing onto it, his hands shaking as he buried his face in them, the heat pressing down, the world spinning. His mom's sedan wasn't there yet. She wouldn't know to come, not with his phone smashed, and he was alone. The airport's hum a cruel soundtrack to his collapse. Hensley's voice echoed in his head, permanently banned, and the news report played on a loop in his mind. Confessed, confessed, confessed. He'd thought telling the truth would save him, that surviving the cuffs and the table would be the end. But this was a new cage, one he couldn't see or touch, built of lies and broadcast to millions. His chest heaved, a sob breaking free, and he clenched his fists, nails digging into his palms, refusing to let it all spill out. Not here, not now. The sound of tires crunching gravel snapped him back, a stranger's car pulling into the lot, oblivious to the kid crumbling on the bench. Jamal wiped his face, forcing his breathing steady, and stood, his ribs protesting, his pride in tatters. He had to get home, had to tell Marcus. His dad would know what to do, would fix this, right? But the news van lingered in the distance, the reporter's voice drifting over. Captain Hensley's quick thinking may have averted disaster, and Jamal's gut twisted, the lie growing legs, running wild while he stumbled in its dust. He started walking, each step heavier, the airport fading behind him. A place he'd loved now, a battlefield he'd barely escaped. Hey folks, what's your take? Comment number 1 if you think Jamal's confession was forced. Number 2 if you're raging at Hensley's dirty tricks. Hit that like button if you're cheering for Jamal to bounce back, and subscribe to catch every twist, because this story's far from over. Ever had someone twist your words against you? Spill it. Below, let's get real. So what happens when the world believes the lie, and can Jamal's family fight the fallout? Jamal Carter trudged through the Dallas heat, his sneakers scuffing the sidewalk. Every step a battle against the ache in his ribs and the weight of the day crashing down on him. The airport loomed behind him, a steel and glass monster that had chewed him up and spat him out, his torn yellow vest flapping like a surrender flag, his wrists still red from the cuffs. He'd made it half a mile from the terminal, his cracked phone left behind, when a familiar horn blared, his mom's old sedan pulling up beside him, Lena's worried face peering out the window. "Baby, what happened?" she gasped, her voice trembling, as she took in his bruised lip, his slumped shoulders. Jamal climbed in, his throat tight, and mumbled, "They thought I was trespassing, Mom. It's bad." She didn't push, just drove, her knuckles white on the wheel, the silence between them thick with unspoken fear. They got home, a squat brick house on a quiet street, and Jamal collapsed onto the couch, the cushions swallowing his battered frame. Lena hovered, her hands fluttering like she wanted to fix him but didn't know how, and then the phone rang, shrill and insistent. She answered, her face hardening as a voice on the other end spoke. Then she hung up, her voice shaking. "They towed my car from the airport lot, said it was suspiciously parked. That's $50 we don't have." Jamal's gut twisted, Hensley's smirk flashing in his mind. This wasn't random. This was payback. Before he could process it, his mom's phone buzzed again, a news alert popping up. Teen caught infiltrating airport hangar, and there he was, his face plastered. Across the screen, grainy footage from the plaza, the word confessed in bold letters. Lena's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh God, Jamal, what did they do to you?" He couldn't answer, his chest caving in as the lie spread, a wildfire he couldn't outrun. The front door banged open, Marcus Carter stepping in, his broad frame filling the room, his suit crisp despite the late hour, his phone pressed to his ear mid-call. He froze, eyes locking on Jamal's bruises, the news still glowing on Lena's screen, and hung up without a word, his voice low and steady. "What happened, son?" Jamal spilled it all, the hangar, Hensley, the cuffs, the fake confession, his voice breaking as he finished. "They banned me, Dad said I'm a criminal, it's everywhere now." Marcus's jaw tightened, a storm brewing behind his calm, dark eyes, and he knelt beside Jamal, his hand firm on his shoulder. "They won't get away with this. I promise you that." Lena paced, her voice rising. Who's they? Marcus. What's this captain think he's doing to our boy? Marcus stood, his tone iron. Hensley's a pilot with Lone Star, but he's picked the wrong family to mess with. Jamal's phone was gone, but the news hit harder. His school calling an hour later. The principal's voice clipped over speakerphone. We're suspending Jamal pending an investigation. Security risks can't be ignored. Lena snapped. He's no risk. He's a straight A kid. But the line went dead. The decision final. Jamal stared at the floor. His future unraveling. School, aviation. All of it slipping through his fingers because of Hensley's lies. Marcus grabbed his keys, his voice a quiet growl. I'm filing a complaint with Lone Star tonight. This ends now. And he stormed out, leaving Jamal and Lena in a house that felt too small, too fragile. Jamal thought it was over, that his dad's move would stop the bleeding. But the night had other plans. He stepped outside to clear his head, the dusk settling over the neighborhood, cicadas humming in the trees, and spotted his bike leaning against the garage, his one escape. He reached for it, then froze. The tires were slashed, deep gashes tearing through the rubber, the frame scratched with jagged lines. His breath caught, his hands shaking as he knelt beside it, and a shadow moved across the street. A figure in a hoodie slipping away into the dark. Jamal's pulse raced, his mind flashing to Hensley, that smug face, those cold eyes, and he knew this was no coincidence. Later, a neighbor knocked, a wiry guy named Pete. His voice hushed. Saw some thug messing with your bike. Said a pilot paid him $20 to send a message. Stay out of my airspace. Jamal's blood ran cold. Hensley wasn't just ruining his name. He was coming for his life, piece by piece. Marcus returned after midnight, his face etched with fury, and Jamal met him at the door, showing him the bike, his voice trembling. He's not stopping, Dad. He did this too. Marcus's eyes narrowed, his hand clenching into a fist, and he pulled. Jamal inside, shutting the door hard. Lena joined them, her arms crossed. What's the plan, Marcus? We can't let this keep happening. Marcus paced, his voice steady but laced with rage. Lone Star's launching an inquiry, Ms. Torres backed. Your story, Jamal. Said she gave you the badge herself, but Hensley's not done. He's too stubborn to quit. Jamal nodded, his chest tight. You'll fix it, right, Dad? You've got the pull? Marcus stopped, locking eyes with him. I'll burn it all down if I have to, son. He's not ready for what's coming. The night stretched on. Jamal curled on the couch, his mom's blanket draped over him, his mind a tangle of fear and hope. He'd thought getting home was the end, that Marcus's complaint would slam the brakes on Hensley's rampage. But the slashed tires, the suspension, the news, it was all proof the captain wasn't backing off. Hensley had lost the first round. Jamal wasn't in jail, but he doubled down, striking at everything Jamal loved, his freedom, his family, his dreams. The TV flickered in the corner, muted, but the ticker scrolled. Airport intruder faces, ban, and Jamal's name glowed in red, a scarlet letter for a crime he didn't commit. His dad's promise echoed, I'll burn it all down, and Jamal clung to it, the only light in the dark. But the pit in his stomach whispered, what if Hensley strikes harder first? Sleep wouldn't come, his ribs throbbing with every shift. His bike's ruined frame burned into his eyelids. He pictured Hensley out there, plotting, that smirk never fading. A man who'd rather destroy a kid than admit he was wrong. Marcus sat at the kitchen table, phone in hand, texting furiously, his jaw set like stone, and Lena watched him, her eyes sharp with worry. Jamal wanted to believe his dad could crush this, that the FAA title Marcus carried meant something big enough to stop a man like Hensley. But the day had taught him one thing. Prejudice didn't bow easy, and Hensley was a storm that kept building. The news looped again, his face flashing and Jamal's hands clenched, anger surging past the fear. He wouldn't let this break him, not yet. But the slashed tires were just a warning, a taste of Hensley's spite. And deep down, Jamal knew. The captain was far from finished. Jamal Carter woke to the faint glow of dawn creeping through the living room blinds, his body stiff from a restless night on the couch, his ribs still tender from the police table slam. The house was quiet. Lena asleep upstairs. Marcus already Gone to tackle Lone Star Airlines, his promise to burn it all down echoing in Jamal's ears. He sat up, wincing as he rubbed his bruised wrists, the red welts a stark reminder of yesterday's nightmare, and glanced at his backpack slumped by the door, the one he'd carried to the airport, now a relic of a day he wanted to forget. His slashed bike haunted him, Hensley's spite seeping into every corner of his life. But Marcus's complaint was in motion. Ms. Torres had his back, and Jamal let himself hope, just for a moment, that the tide was turning. He grabbed a glass of water, the cool liquid soothing his dry throat, when the doorbell rang, sharp and jarring, shattering the morning stillness. Lena shuffled downstairs, her robe tied loose, and opened the door, her gasp pulling Jamal to his feet. 4 cops stood on the porch, guns drawn, their faces grim under the early light, the lead officer barking, "Dallas PD, we've got a warrant. Step aside." Lena stumbled back, her voice shaking. "What's this about? My son's done nothing wrong." But they pushed past her, boots thudding on the hardwood, and zeroed in on Jamal, the lead cop, a wiry man with a buzz cut, pointing his pistol and shouting, "Hands up! Carter, now!" Jamal froze, glass slipping from his fingers, shattering on the floor, his heart hammering as he raised his arms. "What's happening? I didn't do anything." The cops swarmed, 2 grabbing his shoulders, slamming him against the wall, the 3rd kicking his backpack open while Lena screamed, "Stop it, he's just a kid." The wiry cop yanked a thick booklet from the bag, a flight manual for a Boeing 737, its cover stamped classified, FAA property, and held it up, his voice cold. "Care to explain this, kid?" Jamal's eyes widened, his breath catching. "That's not mine. I've never seen it." But the cop smirked, flipping through pages marked with technical diagrams. "Sure. And I'm the Easter Bunny. You stole this from the hangar, didn't you?" Lena lunged forward, her hands outstretched. He didn't steal anything. Someone planted that. But a second cop blocked her, his bulk shoving her back as he growled, "Stay out of this, ma'am. We've got evidence." Jamal's mind reeled. Hensley's face flashing, that smirk, those eyes. This was his move, his revenge for Marcus's complaint. But how? When? They cuffed him again, the metal colder this time, tighter, cutting into his already raw wrists, and dragged him outside, the neighbors peeking through curtains as the cops shoved him toward a squad car. Lena followed, barefoot on the lawn, yelling, "Call Marcus. He'll fix this. He's FAA." But the wiry cop slammed the car door, muffling her voice, and Jamal sat in the back, the vinyl seat sticky against his skin, his head spinning. The radio crackled, the dispatcher's voice cutting through. Suspect in custody, theft of classified materials, possible espionage, and Jamal's stomach dropped. Espionage. This wasn't just a ban or a news hit. This was a felony, a life-ender. Hensley wasn't playing anymore. He was out for blood. The car peeled out, sirens blaring, and Jamal pressed his forehead to the window, the world blurring past. His home, shrinking in the distance. At the station, they hauled him into an interrogation room, a gray box with a single table and a flickering light, the cuffs chaining him to a bolted chair. The wiry cop tossed the manual onto the table, its thud echoing, and leaned in, his breath sour. "You're in deep, Carter, stealing FAA secrets? That's federal time, start talking." Jamal shook his head, his voice trembling but firm. "I didn't steal it, someone put it there. I was at the airport yesterday, check the footage." The cop laughed, a dry, bitter sound. "Footage? You think we're digging through hours of tape for you? We've got the manual. Your prints are all over it by now." Jamal's chest tightened, his hands clenching. They wouldn't be, he'd never touched it. But the cop's smirk said they didn't care. The frame was set. The door creaked, and a voice cut through. Hensley's, smooth and smug. "I knew he was trouble. Officers. Caught him yesterday. Confessed on tape. Now this." The captain stepped in, his uniform crisp, his presence filling the room like poison. And Jamal's blood boiled. "You did this, you planted it." Hensley shrugged, his eyes glinting. "Prove it, kid. You're the one with the manual." The wiry cop nodded, "Good enough for me," and scribbled something on a clipboard while Jamal shouted, "My dad's FAA, he'll prove I'm innocent, just call him." Hensley chuckled, crossing his arms. "Oh, I'm sure he'll try. But this is bigger than Daddy's pull now. Espionage is a hell of a charge." They left him there, the door slamming, the light buzzing overhead, and Jamal sat alone, the manual mocking him from the table, its pages a lie he couldn't unwrite. His ribs throbbed, his wrists bled where the cuffs dug in, and his mind raced. Marcus was fighting Lone Star. Ms. Torres had vouched. The truth was out there. But Hensley had turned it into quicksand, sinking him deeper with every move. He thought of the hangar, how he'd brushed the cockpit, how Hensley must have slipped the manual in his bag then, a trap set before the cuffs even clicked. The station's hum pressed in, phones ringing, voices shouting, and Jamal's hope. Frayed, his dad's FAA clout was big, but this was a felony, a federal mess. Could Marcus really pull him out? Hours crawled by, the room growing colder, the light flickering like it might die, and Jamal's head dropped, exhaustion battling rage. He'd survived the plaza, the news, the bike, thinking each hit was the worst. But this was a guillotine. Hensley's boldest strike yet, and it landed square on his future. The door opened again. A new cop, younger, less hard-edged, uncuffing him from the chair but not the cuffs, muttering, "You're going to booking, kid. Prints and photos, let's move." Jamal stood, his legs shaky, and followed. The manual still, on the table, a ticking bomb he couldn't defuse. He thought of Marcus's promise, "I'll burn it all down," and clung to it. But the station's gray walls closed in, and the truth felt further away than ever. Outside, he heard Hensley's voice on a call, faint but clear through the hall. "That kid's done. Tell the boys at Lone Star I've got this handled." And Jamal's fists clenched, the cuffs rattling, fury surging past the fear. Hensley thought he'd won, thought this frame-up was checkmate. But Jamal wasn't broken. Not yet. The younger cop pushed him toward booking, the flash of a camera waiting, and Jamal's mind sharpened. Marcus would come. He had to. But how? Deep could Hensley bury him before that? The manual wasn't his, the charge was fake, but the world didn't care. Not yet. And Jamal braced himself, the fight far from over. Jamal Carter sat in a cold, sterile cell at the Dallas Juvenile Detention Center, his wrists still raw from cuffs, his ribs a dull ache as he leaned against the chipped concrete wall. The past day had been a blur, booking, fingerprints smudging, ink onto his hands, a mugshot that burned his pride, all for a planted flight manual he'd never touched. Marcus had come that night, his broad frame storming the station, his voice a thunderclap demanding answers, and hired a lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Carla Ruiz with a reputation for tearing cases apart. She'd worked fast, pulling strings, to get Jamal an arraignment by morning, and now he stood in a cramped courtroom, an ill-fitting orange jumpsuit swallowing his lanky frame, his braids tucked under a cap the guards had forced on him. The room buzzed, reporters cramming the back, their pens scratching, cameras banned but their eyes just as invasive. Marcus sat in the front row, his suit impeccable, his face a mask of controlled fury. Lena beside him, her hands clasped tight, her lips moving in silent prayer. Carla stood at Jamal's side, her voice crisp as she addressed the judge, a stern older man with wire-rimmed glasses perched on his nose. "Your Honor, my client is innocent. The evidence proves it." She laid out the case. Ms. Torres from Lone Star Airlines testifying via affidavit that she'd given Jamal the badge. Security footage from Hangar B showing him doing nothing but looking. No manual in sight. The prosecutor, a slick guy with a cheap tie, fumbled, his stack of papers trembling. "We've got the manual, found in his bag." But Carla countered, "No chain of custody, no prints. It's a setup." And the judge nodded, his gavel hovering, leaning, toward dismissal. Jamal's chest loosened, his breath easing. He was going home. Hensley's lie was crumbling. Marcus's fight was winning. Then Captain Victor Hensley strode in, late but deliberate, his pilot's uniform pristine, his gray hair slicked back, a shadow of triumph in his pale blue eyes. He whispered to the prosecutor, who straightened, his voice suddenly bold. "Your Honor, we have a new witness, critical to the case." The judge frowned, adjusting his glasses. "This better be good, Counselor, proceed." Hensley stepped aside, and a janitor shuffled forward. A wiry black man in a faded jumpsuit, his hands twisting nervously, his eyes darting to Hensley before settling on the floor. The prosecutor pounced. "State your name for the record." And the man mumbled, "Tyrone Brooks, I work at the airport." Jamal's stomach knotted, his hands clenching in his lap. Who was this guy? What was Hensley pulling now? Tyrone cleared his throat, his voice shaky. "I heard that kid Jamal bragging in the hangar yesterday said he was going to screw over the pilots, take what he could." Sounded serious. The courtroom erupted, reporters scribbling faster, Marcus bolting. Upright, his voice cutting through. "That's a lie. He was never alone to brag." Carla shot up. "Objection, Your Honor. This witness wasn't disclosed. No corroboration." But the prosecutor smirked. Last-minute addition? Perfectly legal. And the judge sighed, overruling her with a wave. "Let's hear him out." Jamal's head spun, his voice bursting out. "I never said that. I don't even know him." But the judge banged his gavel. Silence, defendant. And Tyrone kept going, his words a script. He was laughing about it. Said he'd make pilots pay. I swear I heard it. Carla leaned close, whispering, "He's lying, Jamal. Hensley's got him scared or paid. We'll fight this." But Jamal's hope frayed, the room tilting as Tyrone's words sank in. The judge rubbed his temples, his voice gruff. "This changes. Things, new testimony. Credible enough to consider bail's denied, detention pending trial." Jamal's breath stopped, his legs buckling as Carla grabbed his arm, steadying him. "We'll appeal. Stay strong." Marcus roared, "This is a setup. Hensley's behind it." But the bailiff shoved him back. "Sit down, sir, or you're out." Lena sobbed, her hands covering her face, and Jamal was led away, cuffs snapping back on, the courtroom fading behind him as guards hauled him to a van, the clang of the door like a coffin lid shutting. Juvie swallowed him again. A different cell this time, smaller, danker, the air thick with mildew and despair. Hours later, a guard tossed him in with a group of older boys, their eyes hard, their fists already curling as they sized him up. One, a tall kid with a shaved head and a scar across his cheek, sneered, "Heard you're the airport rat." Hensley's boy. And Jamal froze. How'd they know? The guard smirked, walking off, and the tall kid lunged, slamming Jamal into the wall, his fist crashing into Jamal's jaw, blood bursting in his mouth. Another kicked his ribs, the pain exploding where the table had hit, and Jamal crumpled, curling tight, his arms shielding his face as blows rained down. "Hensley's cash," someone muttered. $20 to mess you up, and Jamal's blood ran cold, the captain's reach stretching even here. His revenge a living thing. He fought back, swinging wild, landing a punch that split the tall kid's lip, but they were too many, too strong, and he hit the floor, boots stomping his legs, his back, his world a haze of pain and grunts. The guards returned, slow and casual, pulling the boys off, dragging Jamal to a corner, his body a map of bruises, his jumpsuit torn, blood dripping onto the concrete. He slumped there, gasping, every breath a knife in his chest, and thought of the footage Ms. Torres, the truth that was supposed to save him, now buried under Hensley's ambush. Marcus's voice echoed, "I'll burn it all down." But Jamal's faith flickered. Juvie wasn't a warning, it was a war zone, and Hensley had rigged it all. The cell door clanged shut, the light dimming, and Jamal wiped blood from his lip, his hands shaking but his eyes hardening. He'd thought the courtroom was his shot, that Carla's evidence, Marcus's fury, would break Hensley's grip, but the janitor's lie, the judge's gavel, the beating, it was all proof the captain wouldn't. Stop, he'd twist every knife deeper. Footsteps echoed outside, a guard muttering about a call from Marcus, but Jamal barely heard, his body screaming, his mind racing. How much worse could this get? He'd survived the plaza, the news, the arrest, but this was a new hell, and Hensley's shadow loomed larger than ever. Hey viewers, what's your gut say? Comment number 1 if you think Hensley's janitor was bought off. Number 2 if you're stunned Jamal's stuck in juvie. Smash that like if you're raging at this injustice, and subscribe to see if he breaks free, because this fight's hitting fever pitch. Ever seen a lie flip everything upside down? Drop it below, let's unpack this mess. Now, with Jamal beaten and caged, how far will Hensley push to bury him for good? Jamal Carter lay curled on the cold concrete floor of the juvie cell, his body a throbbing map of bruises, blood crusting on his split lip from the beating Hensley's cash had bought. The cell's dim light flickered, casting jagged shadows across the walls, and every creak of the building made him tense, expecting another ambush. His jumpsuit hung in tatters, his ribs screaming with each shallow breath, but his eyes burned, defiance flickering beneath the pain. Marcus had gotten him emergency bail that morning, Carla Ruiz arguing his beating as a safety risk, and the judge, grudgingly, let him out pending trial. Now he sat in the backseat of Marcus's black SUV, Lena's hand gripping his, her voice, a whisper. "You're home soon, baby. We've got you." Marcus drove, his jaw set like granite, his knuckles white on the wheel, the silence thick with fury and unspoken plans. They pulled into their quiet Dallas street, the house a small fortress against the chaos. But as they stepped out, a plume of smoke curled into the dusk sky, the air sharp with gasoline. Jamal's eyes widened. His mom's sedan, parked out front, was engulfed in flames, the hood a twisted wreck, orange tongues licking the night. Lena screamed, "Oh God, no!" and Marcus yanked them back, his voice a growl, "Get inside, now!" Jamal stumbled after them, his legs shaky, and saw the garage door, spray-painted with jagged white letters. "Go back where you came from." The slur beneath it raw and ugly, a dagger in the dusk. His heart pounded, his breath catching. This wasn't random. This was Hensley, the captain's spite clawing deeper, striking at his family now, not just him. Marcus grabbed his phone, dialing fast. His voice clipped. "FAA security. We've got an arson attack. My home. Send a team." And Jamal watched, his chest tight, as his dad paced. A lion caged, but ready to roar. Lena sank onto the couch, her hands trembling. "Who does this, Marcus? Who hates us this much?" Jamal knelt beside her, his voice hoarse. "It's Hensley, Mom. He's not stopping. He paid kids to beat me, now this." Marcus hung up, his eyes dark pools of rage. "I leaked his racism to the press last night. Pilots are boycotting him. FAA's probing Lone Star. He's cornered, hitting back hard." Jamal nodded, his bruises pulsing. "You think he'll quit now?" Marcus shook his head. "Not a chance, son. He's too deep. But I'm deeper." The news hit that evening, Marcus's leak breaking wide. Captain Hensley under fire for racial bias. Clips of Jamal's plaza footage looping online. Pilots refusing to fly with him. Lone Star scrambling. Jamal thought it was a win. Hensley, fired by midnight, his career torched, the FAA's weight crushing him. He hid in his room, the curtains drawn, Marcus's SUV outside a shield as FAA agents swept the scene. The burned car towed away. The slur hosed off but etched in his mind. He lay on his bed, his body aching, thinking the storm was breaking, that Hensley's fall was the end. But the night wasn't done with him yet. A sharp crack split the silence, glass shattering downstairs, and Jamal bolted upright, his pulse racing, adrenaline drowning the pain. He ran to the hall, Marcus already there, his gun drawn from a locked drawer, a rare sight that froze Jamal's blood. A bullet hole gaped in the living room window, the blind swaying, glass glittering on the carpet, and Lena crouched behind the couch, her voice a hiss. "Get down, Jamal!" Marcus edged to the window, peering out, his voice low. "Someone's out there. Stay back." Jamal dropped beside his mom, his heart hammering, and saw a flicker across the street. A figure in black sprinting into the shadows, a rifle's glint catching the streetlight. Marcus dialed again, his tone steel. "Shots fired. My house. Suspect. Fleeing. Get SWAT here now." Jamal's breath hitched. A hitman. Hensley wasn't just mad. He was lethal. And this was his checkmate. The next hour blurred. FAA agents flooding the street, sirens wailing, neighbors peeking from behind locked doors. Marcus pulled Jamal and Lena into the kitchen, away from windows, his voice calm, but razor-edged. "He's hired muscle. I've seen it before. He's desperate." Jamal's hands shook, his voice cracking. "He's trying to kill me, Dad, because of the airport?" Marcus nodded, his hand firm on Jamal's shoulder. "Not just you. Us. He's lost his job, his power. He's burning everything down with him." Lena clutched Jamal's arm, her eyes wet. "We can't stay here, Marcus. He'll keep coming." Marcus's jaw tightened. "We're not running. I'm ending this. FAA's got his scent now." They camped in the kitchen, lights off, the house a fortress under siege, agents outside sweeping for prints, casings, anything to nail Hensley. Jamal sat on the floor, his back to the fridge, his mind spinning. The car fire, the slur, now a bullet, each hit worse than the last. Hensley's revenge a hydra growing new heads. He'd thought the firing was the knockout, that Marcus's leak had crushed the captain. But this was a new beast, a mob threat with teeth, and Jamal's hope flickered. His dad's FAA clout was mighty, but could it outrun a rifle? The agents' radios crackled, suspect tied to a militia group, Hensley's name in their chatter, and Jamal's gut twisted. Militia? This wasn't just personal, it was war. Marcus crouched beside him, his gun holstered now, his voice steady. "We're safe tonight, son. They've got the perimeter locked, but Hensley's not done. He's got friends, dirty ones." Jamal nodded, his bruises throbbing. "You'll get him, right? You've got the FAA?" Marcus's eyes hardened. "I've got more than that. I've got you to protect. He's not touching my family again." Lena hugged Jamal close, her warmth a lifeline, and he clung to it. The bullet hole a stark reminder of how close death had brushed. He'd survived juvie, the news, the arrest, thinking each was the bottom, but this, a hitman in the night, was Hensley's deadliest play yet. And Jamal's world shrank to this kitchen, his family, and the fight Marcus swore to finish. The night stretched, agents patrolling, the house creaking under the tension, and Jamal's eyes stayed open, scanning the dark. Hensley was fired, cornered, but unbowed, hiring killers to silence him, to break Marcus's stand. The car was ashes, the window shattered, and Jamal's dream, his aviation shot, felt like a ghost, drowned in this flood of hate. Marcus's promise held him. "I'm ending this." But the rifle's glint lingered, a promise of worse to come. And Jamal braced himself, the storm far from over. Jamal Carter crouched in the kitchen of their Dallas home, his back pressed against the fridge. The bullet hole in the living room window a stark scar in the dawn light filtering through the blinds. His ribs ached from juvie's beating, his lips still crusted with blood, and the acrid smell of the burned sedan lingered, a ghost of Hensley's militia strike. Marcus stood tall, his suit rumpled from a sleepless night, his gun holstered but his presence a shield as FAA agents swarmed the street outside, their radios crackling with updates on the fleeing hitman. Lena sat beside Jamal, her hand tight on his, her voice a whisper. "We're okay, baby, your dad's got this." But her eyes flicked to Marcus, worry etched deep. Jamal nodded, his bruises pulsing, clinging to his dad's promise. "I'm ending this." But the rifle's glint from last night haunted him, Hensley's reach a noose tightening with every breath. Marcus's phone buzzed, a sharp trill cutting the tension, and he answered, his voice steel. "Jackson here, what's the status?" A pause, then his jaw tightened. "Good, lock it down, I'm coming in." And he hung up, turning to Jamal and Lena. "FAA's got proof, security footage from the hangar. Hensley planting that manual in your bag, Jamal, he's done." Jamal's chest loosened, a flicker of hope sparking. "You've got him now, Dad, right?" Marcus nodded, his eyes dark with resolve. "I'm taking a team to Dallas-Fort Worth. We're arresting him today. He's mid-flight prep. Won't see it coming." Lena stood, her voice firm. "Be careful, Marcus, he's desperate." And Marcus squeezed her shoulder. "I've got the full weight of the FAA. He's finished." They left an hour later, Marcus leading a convoy of black SUVs, Jamal and Lena under guard at home, agents posted at every corner. Jamal watched from the window, his heart pounding, the burned car's husk towed away, the slur scrubbed but burned into his memory. Marcus hit the airport like a storm, FAA brass flanking him, badges flashing as they stormed Hangar B, the same steel cavern where this nightmare began. Hensley stood by a Boeing 737, clipboard in hand, his uniform crisp, barking orders at a crew. Oblivious until Marcus's voice cut through. "Victor Hensley, you're under arrest. Federal charges, evidence tampering, conspiracy. Step away now." Hensley spun, his face paling, then twisting into a sneer. "You've got nothing, Jackson. This is harassment." But agents grabbed his arms, cuffing him as he thrashed, his clipboard clattering to the floor. The hangar crew froze, tools dropping, as Marcus loomed over Hensley, his voice low. "Footage shows you planning that manual. Your prints are on it. Your militia ties are exposed. It's over." Hensley spat, his eyes wild. Lies, all of it. I'll sue you to hell. But the agents hauled him out, his boots dragging, his threats echoing off the walls. Jamal got the call at home, Marcus's voice steady. We've got him, son. He's in custody. You're clear. Relief washed over Jamal. His knees weak, he sank onto the couch, Lena hugging him tight, tears streaking her face. It's done, baby. It's done. He thought it was over. Hensley locked up, the manual's truth out, his name halfway to clean, but the day had claws yet to show. By noon, Hensley's lawyer, a slick suit with a shark's grin, posted bail, claiming entrapment, the arrest, too. Public, too fast. Hensley walked free, his smirk back, and Jamal's phone buzzed with a text from Carla Ruiz. He's out, stay sharp, we're fighting it. Jamal's stomach dropped, his hands shaking as he showed Marcus, who'd just returned, his suit dusted with hanger grit. Marcus's eyes narrowed, his voice a growl. He's not slipping this, I'll bury him. But before he could finish, Jamal's phone rang, an unknown number, and he answered, his voice wary. Hello? Silence, then a rasp. Hensley's. You think this is over, kid? Meet me at the gas station, or your dad's next. Jamal's breath stopped, his hands trembling as he hung up, telling Marcus, he's out, Dad, he called. Wants me at the gas station, says you're next. Marcus grabbed his keys, his voice steel. Stay here, I'm handling this. But Jamal shook. His head, I'm coming, he's after me, I won't hide. Lena protested, no, Jamal, it's too dangerous, but Marcus nodded, his eyes hard. Fine, but you stay close. We end this now. They drove, the SUV cutting through Dallas streets, Jamal's heart hammering. The gas station a mile from the airport, a rundown spot with flickering lights and cracked pumps. They pulled in, dusk settling, and Hensley stood by a pump, alone. His uniform swapped for a black jacket, a pistol glinting in his hand. Marcus stepped out, Jamal behind him, and Hensley laughed, a jagged sound. You brought the kid, Jackson. Good. Saves me time. Marcus's voice was ice. Drop it, Hensley. You're done. FAA's got you cold. But Hensley raised the gun, his eyes wild. Not done till I say your boy's my ticket out. Jamal froze, his bruises throbbing, and Hensley lunged, the pistol whipping. Across Jamal's temple, a burst of pain dropping him to the asphalt, his vision swimming. Marcus roared, charging, but Hensley sidestepped, firing a shot that grazed Marcus's arm, blood blooming on his sleeve. Jamal rolled, dazed, his head pounding, and saw Hensley sprinting for a truck, tires squealing as cops swarmed from nowhere, lights flashing, guns drawn. They tackled Hensley mid-run, his pistol skittering across the lot, his screams piercing the air. You can't take me, I own this. Jamal staggered up, blood trickling down his face, Marcus clutching his arm but steady, shouting, cuff him tight. He's not slipping again. The cops obeyed, slamming Hensley to the ground, his face grinding into the gravel, but his eyes locked on Jamal. A promise of more, even as they dragged him away. Marcus pulled Jamal close, his voice hoarse. You okay, son? Jamal nodded, his temple pulsing. Yeah, Dad, you? Marcus grunted, flesh wound. He's gone now. But Jamal's relief shattered as an agent ran up, his face pale. Sir, we've got a problem. Hensley's militia just grabbed you from your office. It's a decoy. They've got the real Marcus. Jamal's world tilted, his knees buckling. What? Marcus's face hardened. Impossible. I'm here, but the agent shook his head. They hit FAA headquarters, snatched him an hour ago, left a double. They're demanding Jamal's silence or he's dead. Jamal's breath stopped. His dad, the real Marcus, kidnapped? This Marcus a fake? No. His touch, his voice. It was him. But the doubt gnawed, and Hensley's laugh echoed from the squad car. You lose, kid. Checkmate. Jamal clung to Marcus, his real dad, his anchor. But the agent's words sank in, the malicious play, Hensley's trap, and his hope crumbled, death knocking louder than ever. Jamal Carter stood trembling in the gas station lot, blood trickling from his temple where Hensley's pistol had struck, the asphalt gritty under his sneakers as Dallas-Fort Worth's dusk settled heavy around him. Marcus gripped his wounded arm, blood seeping through his sleeve from the grazing shot, his face a mask of fury and focus despite the chaos. The cops had Hensley pinned, his wrists cuffed, his face pressed into the gravel, his wild eyes still locked on Jamal with a venom that promised more. The FAA agent's words echoed. They've got the real Marcus, a militia snatch from headquarters, demanding Jamal's silence or death, and Jamal's mind spun. His dad here, real, warm, bleeding. Yet the threat loomed, a riddle wrapped in terror. Marcus snarled at the agent, his voice rough. I'm right here, check the office, it's a bluff, but the agent shook his head. Radio crackling. We did, sir. Someone's gone, prints match you. They're playing us. Jamal's knees shook, his bruises throbbing, but his eyes hardened. If they've got someone, I'm finding him, Dad. Hensley's not winning this. Marcus grabbed his shoulder, his grip iron despite the wound. No, son, you're hurt. Stay put. But Jamal pulled free, his voice steady. I'm not losing you, real or not, I'm going. Marcus's jaw clenched, then he nodded, his eyes dark with pride and fear. All right. But you stick to me, we do this together. The agent handed Marcus a tablet, his voice urgent. We traced Hensley's calls. Militia hideouts 10 miles east. Old warehouse. They're there. Jamal's pulse raced, his hands clenching 10 miles to save his dad, or whoever they had, and end this nightmare. Marcus barked at the cops. Hold Hensley tight, we're moving. And they piled into the SUV, Jamal beside him, the engine roaring to life. The drive was a blur. Dallas streets whipping past, Marcus's wounded arm steering steady, Jamal clutching his dad's FAA phone, its logs open, Hensley's taunts looping in his head. Checkmate, kid. He scrolled, his fingers trembling, and spotted a call from an unlisted number, time-stamped an hour ago, right when the militia hit. He tapped it, tracing the signal, a map pinging a derelict spot east of the city, matching the agent's tip, and he showed Marcus, his voice hoarse. This is it, Dad, they're there. Marcus nodded, his eyes locked on the road. Good work, son, we're close. FAA SWAT's 5 minutes behind, but we're not waiting. Jamal's chest tightened. 5 minutes. Too long, Hensley's crew wouldn't hesitate, and he pictured Marcus or a double tied up bleeding, a clock ticking down. They screeched into the warehouse lot, a crumbling hulk of rusted steel and broken windows, the air thick with dust and oil, shadows stretching long under the fading sun. Marcus parked behind a stack of crates, his gun drawn, and whispered, Stay. Low, Jamal, we scout first. Jamal nodded, his head pounding, and slipped out, crouching beside his dad as they edged toward a side door, its hinges sagging. Voices drifted out, rough and low. He's leverage. Kid shuts up or this guy's done, and Jamal's blood ran cold. His dad's voice, or a damn good fake, groaning inside. Marcus peeked through a crack, his breath hissing. 3 of them, armed. One's got a hostage, looks like me, tied to a chair. Jamal's stomach twisted, a double but real enough to die, and he whispered, We've got to move, Dad, now. Marcus kicked the door, wood splintering, and charged in. Jamal a step behind, his heart hammering as the warehouse swallowed them. 3 men spun, rifles up, their faces masked in black, the hostage slumped in the center, a man in Marcus's suit, bloodied, gagged, his eyes wide with terror. Hensley stood by him, free, his cuffs gone, a pistol in hand, his laugh jagged. Knew you'd come, Jackson. Brought the kid too. Perfect. Jamal froze. Hensley here. Escaped? Marcus fired, a shot clipping a militia guy's shoulder, dropping him. But Hensley ducked, ranting, Aviation's mine? You don't take it, you black bastards. Jamal's rage flared, his dad's double groaning, and he lunged, no plan, just fury, tackling Hensley as the pistol swung toward Marcus. They hit the floor, Jamal's fists pounding Hensley's chest, the gun skittering free, his temple throbbing but adrenaline drowning it. Hensley clawed back, his nails raking Jamal's arm, snarling, You're dead, kid, all of you. But Jamal, kneed him hard, wind bursting from Hensley's lungs. Marcus took down another gunman, a bullet shattering a crate, wood splintering, and the third bolted, footsteps fading. Jamal pinned Hensley, his hands shaking, and grabbed the pistol, tossing it to Marcus, who caught it, his wounded arm dripping blood. Hensley wheezed, his eyes wild. You've got nothing. I'll bury you. But Jamal ignored him, scrambling to the hostage, ripping the gag free. The man gasping, "I'm FAA, decoy." They grabbed me instead. Marcus cut the ropes, the double collapsing, and Jamal helped him up, his voice trembling. "You're safe. We've got you." The warehouse shuddered, SWAT bursting through the main doors, vests gleaming, rifles sweeping, their shouts filling the air. "Hands up. Drop it." Marcus waved them in, his voice hoarse. "Hensley's down, secure him now." Agents swarmed, cuffing Hensley again, tighter this time, his face a mask of rage as they dragged him off, his screams echoing. "This isn't over, Jackson. I'll kill you all." Jamal slumped against a crate, his body screaming, blood smearing. His hands, but his dad, the real Marcus, stood beside him, alive, bleeding, unbroken. They barricaded the room, SWAT clearing the perimeter, the decoy leaning on Marcus, his voice weak. "They wanted you silent, Jamal. Thought I was him. Hensley's insane." Marcus nodded, his eyes on Jamal. "You saved him, son. Saved us." And Jamal managed a nod, his head spinning. "We got him, Dad, right?" Sirens wailed closer. The warehouse a fortress now. Hensley's last stand crumbling, but his threats lingered. A venom that wouldn't die. The decoy coughed, his suit torn. "They'll try again. He's got more out there." And Jamal's gut twisted. "More? After this?" Marcus holstered his gun, his voice steady. "Let them come. We're ready." But Jamal's eyes flicked to Hensley, hauled out, still spitting hate. And he wondered, was this really the end? The fight left him hollow, his body a wreck, but he stood, Marcus's hand on his shoulder, the SWAT team a wall around them. He'd thought the arrest was it, the footage the knockout, but Hensley's escape, the militia, this rescue. It was a war he hadn't signed up for, and he'd won, barely. The warehouse stank of sweat and gunpowder, the decoy's blood pooling, and Jamal's dream, his aviation shot, felt distant, a speck in this storm of survival. Marcus pulled him close, his wounded arm trembling. "We're not done, son, but you're a fighter." And Jamal nodded, his resolve hardening. The battle won, but the war still breathing. Jamal Carter slumped against a crate in the militia's warehouse, his body a throbbing wreck, blood drying on his temple from Hensley's pistol whip, his ribs screaming from Juvie's kicks. The air stank of gunpowder and rust, SWAT agents, swarming the scene, their boots crunching glass as they hauled Victor Hensley out, his wrists cuffed tight, his face twisted with rage, his screams fading into the night. "I'll kill you all." Marcus stood beside Jamal, his wounded arm bandaged by an agent, blood staining his sleeve, his broad frame steady despite the chaos. The FAA decoy, a man in a torn suit who'd mimicked Marcus, sat propped against a wall, breathing hard, his voice weak. "They thought I was you, Jackson. Wanted the kid quiet." Jamal's hands shook, his eyes locked on his dad, the real Marcus. Alive, here. The militia's trap sprung and shattered by their desperate fight. Days later, the storm broke. Hensley's trial fast-tracked by Marcus's FAA clout, the evidence, piling high, hangar footage of the manual plant, militia chatter tying him to the arson, the hitman, every blow he'd aimed at Jamal. The courtroom was packed, reporters jostling, Jamal in a crisp shirt beside Lena, her hand tight on his, Marcus at the prosecution table, his voice booming as he testified, "Hensley targeted my son, my family. Out of pure prejudice, he's a danger to aviation, to society." The jury deliberated an hour, their verdict ringing out, guilty on all counts, conspiracy, tampering, attempted murder, life in prison with no parole. Hensley's head dropped, his smirk gone, his pale eyes hollow as guards dragged him away. The gavels bang a final nail in his coffin. Jamal exhaled, his chest loosening, justice landing hard, the nightmare's architect buried. Lone Star Airlines called the next week, their CEO on the line, voice smooth with apology. "Jamal, we're horrified. Hensley's actions don't reflect us. We're offering you a full scholarship, pilot training. Start when you're ready." Jamal sat on the couch, phone in hand, Lena beaming beside him, Marcus nodding from the kitchen, his arm still in a sling but his pride clear. The news ran a special, Teen Hero Overcomes Racism. FAA reforms launched. Marcus unveiling a nationwide push, diversity programs, anti-bias training, his face stern on screen. "No one endures what my son did, not again." Jamal's suspension lifted, school welcoming him back, his name cleared, the world flipping from vilifying to venerating him. A kid who'd fought and won. The ceremony came a month later, a bright Dallas morning, the airport's main hangar, draped in banners, FAA and Lone Star logos gleaming. A crowd of pilots, staff, and press gathered. Jamal stood in a new suit, his braids fresh, his bruises faded, a medal pinned to his chest for courage. Marcus beside him, his arm healed, his voice warm as he spoke to the mic. "My son's a testament to resilience, to justice. Aviation's future is his." The crowd cheered, hands clapping, cameras flashing, and Jamal stepped forward, his turn to speak, his voice steady despite the knot in his throat. "I came here to fly, not to fight. But I did both. Thanks to my dad, my mom, and everyone who saw the truth." He paused, the applause swelling, his eyes scanning faces, pride swelling where fear once lived. Then it hit. A tech in the back, fumbling with a speaker, accidentally triggering an audio file, a crackling voice filling the hangar. Marcus's, years old but clear. "I covered it up. Pilot was racist, but I needed the promotion, couldn't risk it." The room froze, gasps rippling, Jamal's head snapping to his dad, whose face drained of color, his eyes wide, locked on the speaker like it had betrayed him. The tech scrambled, cutting it off, but the damage was done, reporters scribbling, whispers surging. What did he cover up? When? Jamal's chest tightened, his metal heavy, his voice gone as he stared at Marcus, the man who'd saved him, who'd burned it all down for him, now cracked open by his own past. Marcus stepped back, his hands raised, his voice hoarse. "That was 15 years ago, a mistake. I've changed." But the crowd shifted, unease spreading, pilots murmuring, FAA brass frowning. Lena grabbed Jamal's arm, her voice low. "He's still. Your dad, baby." He fixed this, but Jamal pulled away, his feet moving before his mind caught up, walking off the stage, the cheers dying, silence swallowing the hangar. He pushed through the crowd, their eyes following, pity, shock, betrayal, mixing, and stepped outside, the Texas sun blinding, his breath short, his world tilting again. Marcus wasn't a saint. He'd hidden a racist once, climbed over it, and Jamal's victory, his justice soured, tainted by that echo. He stood alone, the hangar's hum fading behind him, his suit jacket flapping in the breeze, the metal cold against his chest. Marcus emerged, slow, his face etched with shame. "Son, I was young, scared. I've spent years making it right." But Jamal turned, his voice quiet, raw. "You fought for me, Dad. But what about them? The ones you didn't fight for?" Marcus flinched, his mouth opening, closing. No answer. Just pain. Lena followed, her eyes wet. "He's human, Jamal. He's still your hero." But Jamal shook his head, walking away. The scholarship, the sky, his dream waiting. But heavier now, shadowed by a truth he couldn't unhear. The hangar emptied, the crowd dispersing, Marcus's reform still launching, the FAA spinning it, a past error, a redeemed man. But Jamal didn't stay to hear it. He walked the airport perimeter, planes roaring overhead, his passion alive but tangled, his dad's fight for him real yet built on a crack. Hensley was gone, life in a cell, his hate buried, and Jamal stood taller, a pilot's path ahead. But the cost hit different. Marcus's flaw a weight he'd carry too. He stopped, watching a jet climb, its engines a song he'd chase, and vowed, "I'll fly, but I'll do it clean. No shadows, no compromises. The sky his, but earned his way." The day faded, Dallas sprawling below, and Jamal headed home, his steps slow, his mind churning. Marcus's voice lingered. "I've changed." And maybe he had, but the audio, the cover-up, it was a scar on their triumph, a twist Jamal hadn't seen coming. He'd beaten Hensley, survived the militia, the frame, the plaza. But this, his dad's fallibility, was the hardest hit. A truth that didn't free him, just reframed him. Aviation stretched wide, his future bright, yet bittersweet. And as he walked, the jet's roar faded, leaving silence. A boy, a dream, and a legacy he'd redefine. Jamal Carter's journey in this story is a raw testament to the resilience required to face systemic racism and personal betrayal. The first lesson screams loud: prejudice can strike anywhere, even in spaces meant for dreams, like an airport hangar. Jamal, a kid with a passion for flight, was targeted not for what he did, but for who he was, showing how deeply racism can twist opportunity into persecution. Hensley's relentless attacks, from cuffs to a planted manual, reveal a second truth. Evil doesn't quit easy. It escalates, morphing into arson and bullets when cornered. Yet Jamal's grit, his refusal to break despite beatings and lies, teaches us that strength isn't just surviving, it's fighting back with smarts and heart, like tracking that militia hideout. Marcus's role hammers home a third lesson: justice can win, but it's messy. His FAA power crushed Hensley, but his past cover-up stains the victory, showing heroes aren't flawless, they're human, and their flaws ripple. For Jamal, this twist cuts deepest. The sky's his, but it's shadowed by his dad's compromise. A reminder that truth, even ugly, shapes us. Finally, the story shouts, change starts with us. Marcus's reforms, sparked by Jamal's pain, prove one voice can shift systems, but only if it's loud and unbroken. So, what's your take? Have you faced a moment where prejudice flipped your world, or seen a hero stumble? Drop a comment below, hit like if Jamal's fight lit a fire in you, and subscribe for more tales of grit and justice. Share this to spark the convo, because stories like this don't just end, they ignite. Thanks for riding this roller coaster with us. Here's to chasing dreams with eyes wide open and hearts fierce. May you soar past every shadow.